So we're going to talk about genetics and how, we learned in meiosis that we make gametes. Those gametes have half of the genetic information needed to create a new human through sexual reproduction. And now we're going to take a look at what those gametes have to offer in terms of genes and traits and characteristics. Tomorrow we're going to get into Mendel. This guy right here, he's kind of considered the father of genetics. He did a lot of work on pea plants, which you can see here, and how their genes and traits are expressed. All right, so when you look at yourself, you might notice lots of things. Hair color, eye color, skin color, height, your sex. So are you male or female? Do you produce female gametes like eggs or male gametes like sperm? Many, many other things. These are just a few off the top of my head. And these are examples of what we call traits. Traits are those characteristics that vary between individuals. I don't look exactly like my sister. We share some things in common. We both have brown hair, we both have brown eyes, we're both roughly the same height, but we are not exactly the same. The only times you will look exactly like another person is if you're an identical twin. Yes, there are some doppelgangers out there, but they are pretty rare, especially to find your own doppelganger. So you may share a lot of the same traits with someone, but you won't ever share exactly the same traits unless you're an identical twin. That's a really good question. I am not sure how doppelgangers happen. It's probably just random chance that someone, got the same sort of mix of traits from their parents and you look similar. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. If you think about how many different people there are, we're at about 7.5 billion people, and there are crazy numbers of combinations of traits. It's amazing that doppelgangers even happen. All right, so what causes a trait and why do they vary? Please notice all of these orange bolded words. These are new vocab words. This new unit is heavy with the new vocabulary. So I did make a huge effort to try to, bring your attention to these new words as we come upon them. I'm going to try to use them often in context so that you know what they mean when I say them. So genes are chemical factors that determine traits. You can find them on our DNA, in our chromosomes. DNA is stored in our nucleus in every single cell that we have. And every single cell that we have has a code for all of our traits. We just don't express all of those traits in all of our cells. So if we remember the central dogma of biology, DNA makes RNA and RNA makes proteins. Proteins are how the traits are expressed or shown in an individual. I think in that PowerPoint from last unit, I used melanin as an example. Melanin is a protein that is a pigment protein. It's the reason why our hair color is the way it is, our eye color is the way it is, our skin color is the way it is. So it is a protein that helps display or express those traits. Alleles. Alleles are the different forms of a gene. So for example, brown hair is an allele for hair color. Hair color is, like a general thing. Everybody has a hair color. And an allele is the more specific color: brunette, blonde, redhead. So here's another way to look at it. This gene found in our cell on a chromosome in the DNA determines a trait. So a trait would be hair color. I saw in the quick write many of you did use hair color, some eye color, height. So that is a trait. And the allele would be the actual color of your hair. I have brown hair. My dad has yellow blonde hair. I don't have any relatives with red hair, but I do know people with red hair. Unfortunately, if you dye your hair like green or purple, that's not natural. Like, you're dyeing it, so it's not your natural hair color. You don't have an allele that demonstrates or expresses that purple or green color. But your natural hair color is the allele. More new vocab. There are genetic factors and physical factors. So when we're looking at genes and the expression of these genes, we need to use new vocab to describe them. Phenotypes with a PH are descriptions of the expressed trait. They are physical factors, physically expressed phenotypes, PH. That's how I remember it. So a phenotype of, let's say, the trait of eye color is brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes, hazel eyes, all those different combinations of eye color. Genotypes, on the other hand, are the genetic factors, genotype, genetic factors. They are represented by letters. So for example, we're talking about eye color here. Brown eyes, they can have a genotype of capital B, or capital B, a lowercase b. Blue eyes can be expressed with the genotype little b. But why are some of these uppercase and some are lowercase? Some are big letters, some are little letters. More vocab. A gene can be dominant or recessive. Dominant genes are always expressed when present, and they are identified with capital letters. So if you ever see a capital letter in a genotype, whatever the dominant gene is the gene that will be expressed. So looking back here, we have some capital Bs. Brown is the dominant allele here, dominant brown eyes. So if there's a capital B, our offspring will have brown eyes. Here, there's still a capital B, meaning the offspring will have brown eyes. Even though there's a little b, the big B will push it out and be like, I'm dominant, get out the way, I'm gonna be brown eyes. Recessive genes, on the other hand, they can only be expressed when the dominant gene is not there at all. These are the lowercase letters. So again, looking at our eye colors here, the blue eyes are only present if there are two little b's. Even though this brown eye has one of those lowercase b's, the dominant brown eye allele here is going to take over and express those brown eyes. So these blue eyes can only happen if we have two recessive alleles. So for example, I am a big B, little b for eye color. My mom has brown eyes. My dad has blue eyes. My mom's brown eyes were dominant over my dad's blue eyes, so thus I have brown eyes. All right, so what happens when we combine these genes? During the process of fertilization, so our random fertilization, we don't know which egg is going to meet up with which sperm, and we combine them, each gamete has one allele for each trait. So for hair color, my mom has a big B for brown, and my dad has a little b for blonde. For eye color, my mom has a big B for brown, my dad has a little b for blue. They each contribute one allele for each trait. So when they combine to form that zygote, the fertilized egg, the offspring will get the genotype reflective of their parents' contribution. So again, during meiosis, we formed these gametes. Remember, we have half the information. We only have one allele for each trait. A fully formed individual has two because we are diploid, but our gametes are haploids. So we only have one allele for each trait. More vocab. I know this is the last new bit for today. When alleles are the same, we call them homozygous. They are the same. Homo means same. Zygous is reflective of a zygote. That zygote has the same alleles, homozygous. Two big B's, two little b's. They are the same capitalization. They are homozygous. When those alleles are different, like what I have a capital B and a lowercase b for my eye color and my hair color. I would be heterozygous for eye color and hair color. My dad is blonde hair, blue-eyed. My mom is brown hair, brown-eyed. These are hetero, different, zygous. I was a zygote that had different alleles for some of these traits. One way to look at it, I know this one is sheep, but they're part of the same family as goats. Homozygotes, they are the same, they look identical. And heterozygotes, they are half and half. They have different colors on them. Just a cute little thing. I love goats. They're super fun. All right. Trying to make the vocab as accessible as possible. Here are the new words we've learned today. Genes are chemical factors that determine traits, things like DNA and chromosomes. Alleles are different forms of a gene. For example, eye color, hair color. Genotypes are that genetic makeup, the alleles of big B or little b. The phenotype is the physical characteristic. Do you have brown eyes or blue eyes? Green eyes, hazel eyes, gray eyes. Dominant alleles are always expressed when present. So if there is a capital letter, that is the allele that's going to be present in the phenotype, the physical characteristic. Recessive can only be expressed when both of those alleles are recessive. No dominant allele present, only lowercase. So like my dad, blonde hair, little b, blue eyes, little b. Homozygous means that they are the same. Same capitalization. Are they both uppercase or are they both lowercase? Heterozygous means that those alleles are different. One of each, one capital, one lowercase.